What I want to talk about in this video is what people actually mean when they say that Paraguay is a very relaxed, chill place. You know, you hear it all the time. People will say like, yeah, one of the reasons why I came to Paraguay, or one reason to go to Paraguay, is it's just chill, it's relaxed, and it's just an easy pace and an easy day-to-day experience, for lack of a better way to put it. And I think Así Nomás is like a microcosm for Paraguayan culture as a whole when it comes to this, because they say it, they mean it, they feel it. I'm talking about the locals here, and the expats here, we have to adapt to that. So my name is Esteban. I am an American expat who has been here in Paraguay for almost a year now. I live here full time. I have no plans of leaving. Check out the rest of the videos on the channel to get a better idea as to why I made that decision. And check the links in the description below to see how we can connect further and how I can help you really make the most out of this place. So what does that actually mean, right? It's a chill place. It's chill, right? It's relaxed. First of all, you got to understand that Paraguayan culture is very much slow-paced, and it's very much the opposite of perfectionism. That's not to say that things here aren't done well, because in 90% of cases they are, but people here aren't as like on top of stuff and detail-oriented and just on efficiency and timelines and success, and they're not as methodical as we might be in our home countries, especially if you're from somewhere like the United States, like I am, or maybe you're from somewhere like Germany or the UK, right? And especially Germans. I know you guys love your things done well, right? Done right. So here you just can't expect that. You got to be a bit more patient with people. You got to have some tolerance for imperfection, and you can't be a Karen. Unfortunately, more like fortunately, the Karen doesn't have a good time here. Karen, in case you don't know, is like a meme, right? Of like a middle-aged white lady who hates everything. She freaks out over any little detail. She complains to the manager. She's impossible to satisfy. Karen wouldn't like Paraguay. Karen would hate it in Paraguay. And Paraguayans wouldn't like her. That's just the truth of it. So that's the first part, right? Like, you just have to be patient, and you have to adapt to that. Don't try to change it, because it's just not going to change. Maybe slowly over time, things are going to become more efficient. Things are going to become a little bit more thorough. But it's not just obvious stuff like, you know, the amount of time you wait in line at the bank, or, you know, hearing back from somebody that you're doing business with, or getting a package delivered, right? You know, the person says that they're going to deliver it at 1 and they show up at 5, right? That stuff's obvious. That stuff you definitely got to be ready for. But it's also little stuff, right? On a smaller scale. Like, you try to make plans with someone and they're hesitant to confirm if they actually want to do it or not. Listen, I'm in, but you can tell by the way they said it that they're not actually in. And over time, you'll get a better sixth sense for what people actually mean behind what they say. Or you make plans for 8 p.m., 7:30 rolls around, and they're like, sorry, man, I can't make it for XYZ reason that you know isn't the actual reason, but they just don't want to hurt your feelings. So in that sense, it is quite relaxed in that, you know, social commitments aren't as important. They're not as concrete. And in general, you're going to get a lot less criticism and confrontation. Meaning, if you're doing things wrong, right? If you said something you shouldn't have said, or if you made someone feel upset, or if you made a mistake, or if you smell bad, or if you've got something on your teeth, you're generally not going to hear it. People aren't going to tell you directly, hey man, put on some deodorant, or hey man, you shouldn't have said that, or hey man, I didn't like the way that made me feel, right? Things are a lot more indirect, and things just kind of go without saying, and things just kind of go with the flow in that sense, which means that you have to be careful with the way you do things in order to make sure that you're making good impressions on others, and you have to be able to correct yourself without them correcting you, and you have to understand that if you're going to correct someone else, they might take it personally, and that's fine, right? You know, in a perfect world, we could all give constructive criticism to one another without anybody taking it personally, but that's not the kind of world we live in. And here, yeah, people are, they're just not as used to hearing that kind of criticism, that kind of feedback. So if you present it to them, even with good intentions, they still might take it a little bit personally. So just keep that in mind. You just have to be, ultimately at the root of it, you have to understand how things are being said more than what is being said. And you have to really be able to read people emotionally and take the hints, right? People will drop hints. I know you might think that that's immature, but that's true, right? People will drop hints, they'll communicate things to you without saying it. So you have to be able to pick those things up and adapt accordingly. And once you get the feel for it, once you kind of understand what it is, you'll be fine, and you'll be able to navigate your way around town just fine. Also, in general, more focus is placed on today than tomorrow, right? This goes for everything. Goes for business, goes for making plans, right? We're worried about today. That's part of the relaxed feel. It's just what's going on now? How do you feel now? Right? Not so much what's gonna happen in a week from today, in a month from today, in a year from today. It's just what's going on today, right? We'll tackle the problems today as they come, and we'll worry about tomorrow. I know this sounds super abstract, but it's an important concept for you to keep in mind. If you're making plans for things that are very far out, or you're speculating on things that might happen in the future, just understand that there's not as much importance placed on that, right? Así no más. It's about today. And I wish I could go deeper on that point and maybe make it a little bit more pointed, but that really is it, right? It's living in the now, it's living in the moment. And you see that and you feel that. Also, materialism. Materialism is not nearly as important here as it is in a lot of our home countries, especially like in the US, with such a consumeristic society. Consumeristic, however you describe it. In the US, it's like keeping up with the Joneses, right? Everybody wants the newest, the latest and greatest thing. Everybody wants to have the nicest yard and the newest iPhone, and the trendiest clothes. And here, like, even amongst the people who are more affluent, it's just not as prevalent. Flex culture is way less common, and if anything, people who try to flex are looked down upon more than they're looked up to, right? Like if you are blatantly just trying to like show off your material possessions, or drive around in the loudest, noisiest car and just cause a ruckus and be the center of everyone's attention all the time, people will be like, bro, what a clown. Like, who does that guy think he is? And it's what it does, it just creates impressions that I think are a lot more genuine, and it just eliminates people's need to walk around trying to be the big dog all the time. And honestly, I personally really like that. I really like that. In the States, a lot of people have that energy by the way they dress and the things they buy, and it's just like it's like this unspoken like clout chase, this unspoken like power chase based off of the material possessions they have. And it just, you talk to these people, right? These people who are By the way they're dressed and the way they carry themselves, you can tell they're trying to show off. And you can just tell that everything that they're saying to you is being said through a filter, right? It's like they have their image filter, right? How do I want people to perceive me? I want you to think that I'm rich. I want you to think that I'm doing bigger and better and cooler things than you. I want you to think that I am the coolest guy who dates the most beautiful women, who lives the most awesome lifestyle. You see this a lot on social media, but I'm not even talking about social media. I'm just talking about day-to-day conversation. And therefore, every word that I will tell you in our conversation must pass through that filter, otherwise I can't say it. Every response to the questions that you ask me must fit with this image that I'm trying to present to you. Whereas here it's just like, they don't really care as much. And they know, it's almost like people's kind of social EQ is a little bit higher when it comes to this. Like, people can tell when somebody's rich, when somebody's doing big things. That person doesn't have to show it off. They can tell. And when they do realize, there is a dynamic to where people will treat you better if they think that you are more affluent. That's definitely true. There's definitely a bit of a class structure hierarchy here, for better or for worse. I'm not saying that that's not the case. And the God honest truth is that by you as a foreigner, some people might look up to you a little bit more just by virtue of you being from somewhere else. I'm not saying everyone, but sometimes you will feel that. But if you try to double down on that and be, oh, I'm the foreigner who has this nice watch, and you run into these guys sometimes, right? At networking events and stuff, like guys who are just bluffing. It's like, why are you bluffing, dude? Like, no one cares. Like, oh yeah, I'm running this business and we just did this much revenue, and my crypto investments are taking off, and I know everything about AI, and I've traveled to more countries than you, and I date the hottest women here, and yeah, I'm just a cooler expat than you, right? It's like that sort of guy. It's like the locals can see through that. They can sniff through that bluff. Most of the foreigners here can as well. So that's another part of just like that relaxed culture, right? It's just like we're not trying to sniff our way to the top of the pyramid through lies. And it's funny, a lot of people that I meet here, they say, a lot of locals, they say, I think it would be cool to go live in the States. And a lot of times their first example of a city to go to is Miami, Florida. And Miami is like the complete opposite of this. It's not tranquilo. It's not así nomás. It is materialistic. In Miami, like, everyone's trying to show off. Now, I'm sure this is the case in many big cities in the U.S., but I speak for Miami because I've been there a lot. I have a lot of family members there, and Miami is very relevant to Latin America, and many people consider it the capital of Latin America. So a lot of Latinos see it as like a wonderful destination. But if they ask, like, how is Miami? A lot of times I'll share that it's a cool city. It's beautiful. There's a lot to do, but that relaxed side of life here in Paraguay, that lack of materialism, you're going to lose all of it. And you're going to find that the people that you meet there are all trying to win some sort of unspoken game. Everybody's like on the hunt for status, right? And for some people, that's good. A lot of people, they go to Miami to level up in their careers, to make connections and to lock in and to build big businesses. And I want to give them credit for that. But on another hand, like, that stuff is tiring. And so meeting people in Miami, you have to filter out through so much BS. And here you just don't have to filter out through BS as much. What else? I think that's kind of it. Also, when it comes to the materialistic thing, like, it's not just like your clothes and the way you look. It's everything, right? It's like going out for dinner with friends. Like, you invite your friends out to just go have a lomito árabe at, a local restaurant with red plastic Coca-Cola tables and red plastic Coca-Cola chairs. And that's totally fine. Like, they're not going to look down, look down on you for that. You take a girl on a date, like 9 times out of 10, she's not going to expect the most extravagant thing in the world. Like, she doesn't need that. She just wants to get to know you for you. Not saying that there's a lot of quirks when it comes to dating. I'll get into that in a later video. I'm not saying it's perfect, but when it comes to that part, like the materialistic part, it's just not as expected. And a lot of people just hang out, like, after work, or like on a Friday evening. They get together with their friends, they get together with their family, they have some tereré, they have a couple beers, and they just shoot the shit, right? Like, just shooting the shit for the sake of shooting the shit. Just hanging out and just chatting, right? Like, that's another example of like the relaxed culture. Whereas in other places, that might be seen as boring, or that might be seen as like dull, or like, oh, like, what are we doing? We're wasting time. But here, that's just not as much of a waste of time. That's time well spent. So yeah, I mean, if you're someone who needs like constant motion and constant stimulation and constant dopamine, maybe don't come here. I've said it before. I think Paraguay is a place where, with enough time, you will have less dopamine, but throughout that process, you will find more serotonin for what that's worth. And you'll get used to it. You'll start to appreciate it. And you'll start to adapt to it yourself. Maybe you'll start showing up a little bit later. Maybe you won't be quite as on time. Maybe you won't respond to text messages quite as quickly, for better or for worse. I'm guilty of it. But that's just what it means to adapt to the culture. And that's what I think people really mean when they tell you this place is chill. It's not just like, oh, there's not a bunch of chaos on the street, and there's not a bunch of, nightlife and parties and festivals and stuff. Like, that's not what they really mean. What actually makes people feel that way is the day-to-day, right? It's the experiences, it's the conversations. And I think if you're coming down here to focus on, improving yourself and getting your work done and making friends and taking things one day at a time, like I said, you'll appreciate it. If not, if you're on a quick timeline, if you've got a lot on your plate, you might think it's not the most conducive environment to what you're looking for. So that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you found it a bit more insightful, and I hope that you're able to take what I said and keep it in mind going forward as you're having more interactions on a day-to-day basis, and as you're learning more about Paraguayan culture for what it actually is. If you want to connect with me, reach out to me on Instagram at EstebanExpat. That's a great way to get in touch with me personally. Check the links in the description. I'm going to be doing consultation calls here soon. I may have launched them by the time that I've done this video, or I may not have. If you're interested in speaking to me one-on-one, stay tuned for the next one, and I will see you again here soon in Asunción. Ciao, ciao.